Welcome, BBCers, to episode number 104 of the Broken by Concept podcast, the number one solo queue motivational we motivate people here, but we're about reality here as well, aren't we, Curtis? So, number one solo queue improvement podcast is what we like to call this. Speaking of solo queue, Curtis, we haven't done an update on our solo queue for a while.
Okay.
All right. So, this is very interesting. Okay, I think in my solo queue journey right now, I have a feeling it's going to mimic last year.
In what way?
I was challenged at the beginning of the year, right, for the first couple of months, and then slowly, around July, August, I went down all the way down to struggling low master and then down to Diamond 1.
Why did that happen?
I have a feeling we've talked about this before on the podcast, right? There's a couple of reasons. Obviously, the different champ pool. I was learning Xin Zhao Jarvan.
Okay.
But it's not even about that. It's more so I just feel it. I feel it coming. I've had a really pretty bad performance week. I've gone back to my habits of giving up on games very easily. After I have one good game or two good games, but I'm ruining games for my team. There's probably about two people in OS right now that will dodge me on site because I've lost every game with them. And I've just seen the signs again,
okay.
And I'm feeling. So the difference this time is obviously I have my 2-account strategy where I have my first high intensity 3 block on my main and then my second one. But last year I was doing 6 game, 2-3 blocks in the afternoon. And then at night I was just tilting away those night games. So I do have an extra toolkit to deal with it.
Okay.
But we need to come up with a strategy and a plan for me here, Curtis, all right? Because I can feel it's happening, I'm playing Rek'Sai, I'm playing these games where the games are so hard. I've got all these narratives that are popping up. One thing I'll talk about as well quickly, with the Belveth release, right? I'm really upset at Riot for this. It shows to me a complete lack of understanding of what a jungler is. They're trying to create the jungle in a certain way, right? So Belveth is a pretty weak early jungler, and she's a scaling like a Marcy, Kraken Slayer, shield bow, these type of things, and attack speed, right? And she's a split, she's rewarded for split pushing. The strategy is you get Herald,
split,
and then you go straight top and you get 2 towers, right? Okay. And you get these voidling minions or whatever it is, right? And it's just baffling to me in terms of champ, that the 200 years champ design, right? That why would they release a jungler like this? It's very telling to me the direction they're trying to go with the jungle. It's they don't give a fuck about the facilitator type mindset.
Right, it's more about being the carry.
Yeah.
Farming camps.
And maybe it's more catered to, because the champion's getting nerfed, and what Riot have said is that the champion's overperforming in lower elo. Right? So this is sort of feeding the narrative as well of maybe my playstyle is getting out of fashion, playing off waves and more so helping your team and all that sort of stuff. It's just that's how that release of the champion is sort of I think it's a bit of it could be just a false narrative and stuff like that, but these are the things that I feel that there's some checkers falling down. I'm just going to go back to my old ways very quickly.
I haven't thought about this, and we haven't really spoke about this, and I'm trying to kind of interpret everything you just said to me. I can see how this is all. This is building up. Everything is building up. As in, you're trying to find reasons as to why you're also struggling as well.
That's right.
And you started this journey where you wanted to play early game junglers a year ago, roughly.
Yep, about a year ago. Yep.
And you wanted to learn the Elise. I think you're learning Xin Zhao, the Rek'Sai, things of that nature, right? And you wanted to be that sort of player that could take control in the early game, get lanes ahead, just run over the game essentially. Because you had come from a background of scale, farm, be super efficient, and then kind of win in mid game. And so you wanted to become a more versatile player essentially. And that took you a lot of time, a lot of painful experiences, a lot of effort, metric tons of games, painful experiences, the whole shebang. And, this Belveth release and combined with your recent struggles seemed to me is that you're trying to create a nice little narrative for yourself that Riot is against me.
That's right. I'm the victim.
You're the victim, and everyone's against me, and it's me versus the world essentially. And I don't think that's healthy.
No.
And look, I think it's possible to realize yes, you may be playing the suboptimal strategy in terms of meta, right? I mean, I would say that's pretty true. Majority of players don't play Rek'Sai and they don't play this early aggressive style.
I played a couple of games of Xin Zhao this week. They didn't go too well, but one game went okay.
Okay, yeah.
You know, so when was the last time you saw Xin Zhao, Curtis?
I don't see any Rek'Sai or any Xin Zhao outside of you. I think there's one other Rek'Sai player that I bump into occasionally. Yeah. That other guy.
Yeah.
But outside of that, basically never. So that's why I'm interpreting everything so far. And
I think you're pretty spot on.
I would agree that Riot probably want to take the jungle role in a differing way. But I think those champions are more sexy, right? I mean, people want to play the carry junglers. They're fun to play. Yet you clear fast, you can skirmish well, you can scale, you play off your Kraken Slayer spike, your Borg spike, whatever the hell it is. People love playing those champions. Attack speed, it's sexy. Like the Viego, same thing. It's sexy. Graves, sexy. Everyone loves playing those champs. People don't want to play the Xin Zhao. People don't want to play the Rek'Sai. Those are more competitive picks in a way when you think about it.
Tank Volibear.
Yeah, no one wants to play Tank Volibear. Who the hell wants to play these boring champions? I think Riot, I mean, I don't really know, and we're probably going to have to speak to Riot at some point about this on the BBC, but I'm assuming money and
getting people to play the game, right?
Yeah, getting people to play the game and have fun, right? I'm assuming that's their priority more than creating more early game junglers, more facilitative junglers. Who's going to want to main another facilitative jungler?
Trundle jungle.
No one wants another Trundle jungle, another Volibear jungle, another, no one wants those champions. There's already plenty of them when you think about it. There's Jarvan, Xin Zhao, Volibear, Trundle, there's many of them. So just playing devil's advocate, I'm assuming that's what their strategy is. Now, objectively, Nathan, yes, you're playing a difficult strategy. You've got a choice to make, right? You've got a choice to make.
That's right.
Here.
I think I have a choice to make.
You have a choice to make here. You can stick with what you've got right now, continue to all chips down, all in for this season on this style. We're talking, the occasional, Volley, Xin Zhao, Rek'Sai, Elise, whatever you need to do to all in on this style. You have a very clear player identity, the skill sets all overlap, and kind of sit tight and hold on for a particular LP to the end of the season to maintain challenge. Because that's the goal, right? The goal for you is challenger.
That's right.
Maintain challenge, which if you're sitting roughly at the LP that you're at now, you're probably going to sit, hold on to challenger, right? Or, Nathan, you mix it up a little bit. Not saying you drop that style, but you alternate between the two. You might add in that occasional, whatever that champ is for you, whether it's a Shyvana or go back to Udi or Hecarim or whatever it might be, and weave in that with alongside the early game jungler when you see fit and be a truly versatile player. What do you think about that?
So I think that, I definitely, when I say like the feelings of last year, it's like that self-sabotaging, mindset. Because then what will happen will be like, because I love playing this style, right? Like I love it. Like I'm really on board with going all in chips, right? And, be like, the mindset I already do have this is I have to play perfectly to win games in this era, right? Like I got to just be like out of my zero mistakes, right? And then if I go the other, if I do start adding, sprinkling these champions in, let's say I add,
let's just say Shyvana
to my pool, right?
Let's pull it out of there.
I'll just be able to see the weaknesses of the champion so easily, and
I think it's a very slippery slope.
It'll just anger me. You know what I mean?
I feel as though it will also create more narratives.
That's right,
and it will actually demoralize your confidence because you'll lose games within Shyvana. You're like, I wish I was playing that champ. And then it'll just, get in your head.
I'll lose a game where Shyvana, where like, let's say it wasn't that, like if I was playing, I could just see a clear victory into the game.
Yeah.
And then like maybe let's say I even play Shyvana, right? And then like I, really strong mid game check with the Demonic Embrace, Sunfire, all that sort of stuff, right? The Frostfire Fist. And you see the, and then I just lose the mid game as well. It's like, what's the point? Like,
what's the point? I feel like you've all in for so long and got decent results with your style. I think you got to just stick to it.
I think I got to stick to it.
I think it's a very slippery slope.
I just got to really perfect it.
Okay, I want to give you one piece of advice that has helped me. So this is something I've been thinking about recently after a game that I played. So I had a game 2 days ago, a series of games, versus a player that I personally dislike. I know this player, and and it sounds egotistical, but I completely disrespect the way this guy views the game. I thoroughly dislike the way this guy plays the game, right? And I reflected on it that night. You know, I do, as I do after my game, my blocks, I have a shower and I think about like how my block went, like to reflect. And I was angry. Like I was like, not fuming, but I was like getting pumped up. Like I'm like, I want to destroy this guy. It just so happens the next day, he was on the enemy team from champs. I saw that name, the same champ he's playing. They're playing this bullshit strategy. And Nathan, you were on my team that game, and I was playing out of my mind. Like just, you see my comms that game? Like I was pinging stuff back. I was saying, let's do this, pinging objectives. Like I was like controlling the game. I took control.
Absolutely.
Like out of nowhere, just boom. It was one game and of a champ. I played Renata. It's just a newest champ in my pool. I just ascended in a way. Like I was all in intensity. Now, it's weird to me because that is what I call, like, that's the dominating your opponent mindset that I had lost for a very long time. Now, this is where things get very confusing because, you know, we talk a lot about focusing on yourself, doing your job, you know, playing in accordance to your champ's identity, focusing on the improvement, all this stuff. But then, you know, not focusing on the LP, not focusing on your opponent, looking at the champion, not the name. But in this game, I controlled these emotions in a way. I channeled it is a better word. I channeled these emotions and I wanted to dominate this game. And I used it to increase my intensity to another level. A level that at which I wouldn't have been able to reach if it wasn't there. And this actually reminded me, this is what I did back in the day. This is actually kind of the mindset I had. Like, I'm going to shit on these players. I'm not just going to win. Because we sometimes talk about don't even focus on winning, just focus on doing your job. No, sometimes if you can control it, if you have the mental regulation and the toolkits and you understand your role, you're playing a champ you love, and you know your role in the game, you can use that to really increase your focus and just shit on your opponent. There's a difference between doing your job and then just shitting on your opponent. Because you're thinking about, how do I make that guy's life as miserable as possible? That was my mindset. How do I make this guy just lose, like just get to shit on? And funnily enough, because he was dueling this guy in Diamond 1, I checked and they stopped dueling after that game. I took his soul on that game.
Taking souls, David Goggins.
That's taking souls. That's David Goggins level. And that inspired me. I think that's what you're missing. You need to go from just going, here we go, another XR game, these are my win cons, to I'm going to shit on these guys. Like, even if you don't believe you can do it, like, tell yourself, I want to dominate my opponent. I don't want to just go through the motions and just do another game. I want to dominate. What does dominating my opponent look like? Not just winning the game, dominating my opponent. It's a mindset.
It's interesting because I mean, I think that I remember my first, couple of days of the season. You know how I was just like, when we started the season, I was like 24 and like 8. I was like top 5 on the server, right? Obviously, this is the beginning of the season, but I had that mindset, right? Like, yeah. But it's interesting, and it's interesting again, the timing of the year. I think it's hard to keep that up for months and months and months. We're in June, July. We're in like the halfway point of the season, right? And that's why it's such an interesting. It
comes and goes.
Because as well, for me as well, it's such a critical point because especially with where we are sort of out on the ladder, right? You know how like we always want progress. Like I've been hovering around rank 20 to rank 35 at the moment, and I really feel like this is it in a way, and that's just like lowering the intensity because I'm not pushing.
You're not pushing.
Because I'm like, because then the narrative goes again. It's like, okay, I'm the only Rek'Sai player on the server, right? I mean, yeah, there's another one, sure. But, is it like, really, am I capable of getting higher than rank 20?
No one's done it in front of you. So like,
that's right.
You got to be a trailblazer.
That's right.
You got to like kind of shape the way,
and then there's all these narratives, there's all these things, there's champions like Belveth getting released, all that sort of stuff. So that's why I feel like at this point in the season could be a huge tipping point for me of like me just exploding. Changing champ pool, changing style.
But I think you need to get excited about, like, even though everything we're saying right now, by the way, is incredibly niche to the higher ranked players.
That's right.
I want to be careful here.
There's
a lot of dangerous stuff here, right?
Yes,
we're playing with fire.
Very dangerous.
I actually wrote on my whiteboard.
Yeah.
This was literally 2 days ago. After those games, I wrote on I have a little whiteboard on my wall now, and I wrote like a goal that I had, because I feel like I was kind of going through the motions as well. Like similarly, like I'm just playing 3 block, another 3 block, another 3 block.
That's right.
And I wrote a number. I said, this is the LP that I want. Like this gets me excited. I wrote 800 LP. I'm like, this is my goal. And now I feel like I have something to work towards. Like I feel I didn't have a goal. Like I really didn't have a goal. Like,
I mean, you obviously have your overarching challenger goal, right? Each year.
But
does that not kick until the end later in the year?
Yeah, it's usually later in the year. And I feel like right now I'm getting really like going through the motions. So I've set a number, and that might not be the number I go for at the end. But for now, I need like a goal that gets me excited. That gives me that. Why am I playing right now? Why am I doing this 3 block? Because it sometimes feel like you. I play these games and I lose, and I'm like, I will just win this if I'm just really wanting it. I don't really want it.
Again, I review my games, dude. I'm like, oh, this game's just so winnable. Like I was so angry at myself. I was literally like on my couch, like after my 3 block, like later I was having dinner. I was like, just like, fuck, man. Like,
you think about it for hours.
Come on, I think about it for hours. You know, like what are you doing, dude?
Yeah, what do we do? Get it together. Get your shit together.
It's embarrassing, man. Because
it's
that's
frustrating at yourself.
Because I'm regressing. I think I've gotten worse over the last 2 weeks.
You can get worse. It's
just crazy. Just simple things. Actually, it was interesting. I had a review with one of my Diamond 1 clients, right? And he lost like 2 skirmishes, and he would have won and survived if he popped his health potions.
Yep.
Think about that. A Diamond 1 player popping health potions before a fight, because you're not full HP and you're engaged in a fight. Think about how basic that is. Look at how easy it is to get sloppy on the fundamentals in League of Legends.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about.
It's crazy.
I've got a client at the moment
sloppy.
who he climbed to 500 LP in EU, and he went down all the way to 250 or something like that. And we had in chat this morning. He said, Curtis, I'm in a slump. I feel like where it all started was, you know, I had a few autofill game, like secondary role games, and then they didn't go well, and then I lost my confidence, and then he just kind of went down a slippery slope in a way. And now he's feeling like he's in a hole, like he's in a slump. He's lost his confidence. And I reviewed one of his games this morning. Terrible fundamentals. And my advice for people that are in a slump is you go back to the basics. Like you actually, you're so in your head. This is what happens. You might lose a game. Say you get very unlucky, like these very small margins, like a team fight in mid game, you miss a smite here, or you like very small things. And you think that that's the reason you're losing games. Like you don't forget them. You're like, it's all these advanced little smaller details. And then over time you get gradually more complacent on the stuff that really matters.
That's right.
And then before you know it, this guy lost 300 LP, and we're looking at his first, 8 minutes of the game. Basic lack of jungle tracking, terrible lane positioning, bad resets, just like the basics.
The stuff that he's done before.
The stuff that he'd done before, but he's not doing it now.
You get complacent with it.
You're complacent. And all you got to do, I said, man, look, you're capable of doing this. I've seen you do it before. You got to go back. Let's just revisit the basics. Let's get back to kind of where you're at. And then we can start to go a little bit deeper. But for now, let's get the fundamentals down. It's very easy to regress in League. Extremely easy to regress.
And then it's just the cycle, because then you lose the confidence, and then you're in self-sabotage mode, and then all the narratives that I talked about,
yep.
Now it's coming. Again, I'm looking at these games. Belveth being fucking released is not the reason I'm losing these games, my mid game, again, I'm making the game so difficult because I have the hero syndrome, I feel, at this point, because I was getting like high, like, and I was like top 20 on the server. I was like, oh, okay, I'm just a beast. Like the overconfidence actually shoots you down, because then you feel like if I'm not winning this game for my team, I just lose the game, because I'm meant to be the rank 20. I'm the top player in MMR matchmaking of this team. If I'm not playing perfectly, I'm going to lose the game. And then I'm making the game harder for myself in mid game, when before my mid game was really good the last month or so.
Do you feel like in League, you got to find a balance between, okay, this is very hard to articulate, but have a crack.
Have a crack.
Do you find that League is a game where you have to have the perfect amount of confidence?
Yeah, there is.
Like there's a level. And what this looks like in game is that you have faith in your ability to scale, right? So like do your job in mid game. You believe that if you get to your items, you play in accordance to your champ's identity, that you
read the map,
you do all the things, that you have the ability to execute and win the game when it should be won. There's that. But then what happens if you're underconfident is that you don't trust in you might not even be aware of this, but what's actually happening is that you don't trust your ability to execute, like scale. And then the way that it manifests is that you compensate in the early game and do all these things like play too fast, do all this crazy shit when you don't realize you're actually not even playing in accordance with your champ's identity anymore. You've actually just done all this random shit. You're like trying to solo kill people level 3 as Cassidon or like going for random shit. And all that is you just don't trust your ability to execute. That's what the lack of confidence, that's how it manifests. Or if you're overly confident, you then overstep your bounds. You might maybe miss things, maybe just be complacent, right? You could even just be complacent, miss basics because you just think you're the hero, you're the best in the world. So you got to find that little, most people it's underconfident and they don't trust their ability to scale, but you got to find that middle ground.
I think everyone though, I would say everyone in all elos, they have their peaks of the confidence.
Yeah.
And then that too far confidence.
Yeah.
It's so dangerous, dude. I think you articulate it really well. I think that's perfect.
Is that what it feels like to you as well?
Yes, I think that's perfect.
Because I go through phases where I'm like chilling. I'm just like, it's like the game feels so easy. I'm just like doing my job, farming, and like, woohoo, we win a fight, yippee, we get my LP. And then I have games where I'm like sweating my balls off and feel like I'm trying to do so much.
Yeah.
And I'm just losing the game for my team.
Yeah.
So I'm missing something. I'm like trying to like be the best player in the world and like.
That's right. That's me. I'm trying to win games at level 3 fights and invades when I don't need to.
I don't need to do this. I try to solo kill this guy on Ari at level 4, and then I just die to a level 3 gang. What the hell am I doing? Slow it down. And then I go, it's just like a cycle.
It is a cycle because then you have the overconfidence. You realize, okay, I need to go back to basics. You get the basics. You get super confident because you went in, and then you get the confidence. You go back down because then you don't respect the basics again.
Infuriating.
It's a struggle, dude.
It's a struggle, yeah.
And especially when, we know how people say they slump, and like when I view a slump, at the end of the day, people still focus on the LP. I think I still do it right. You can tell it's like, again, I'm bouncing between 700 and 600 LP. You know what I mean? Like there's just no going, like I'm having good games, but overall I'm having pretty bad games. Yeah, you feel it. Yep.
We did a challenge in the MLA recently about labeling all of your games as good or bad wins or good or bad losses. And when we did a recap of the challenge, and I noticed how many bad wins I had and how many bad losses I had.
Interesting.
It was like 1 in every 3 games I was having a bad win or a bad loss. That's disgusting in my eyes.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I'm having a bad win or a bad loss, so one in every 3 games,
a bad
was
loss and a bad win, it would be different from just an okay game.
No, so basically what to really summarize it, a bad win or a bad loss is basically a game where you didn't really play to your max capacity. Like you didn't play with intensity. Like you lost your focus, you lost your intensity.
Yeah.
It was just sloppy.
Yeah.
Like you just got lucky that you won that game. You got carried. You didn't express your best self. You didn't play. You didn't play to your capability. Or a bad loss is that when you didn't do your job. You didn't minimize. You didn't lose gracefully. You didn't play to your capability. You tilted, lost focus, whatever. And I was having them 1 in every 3 games, dude. That was I saw the data. Like I did the 2-week challenge. I saw it. It's basically 1 in every 3 games. And it was a wake up call. I was like, shit, Curtis. This is what I think led to me to have that revelation about setting a goal to kind of hold myself accountable rather than being okay with just sitting at this 700 LP. And then also, that dominating mindset. That was like kind of my kickstarting way. And I know that's not sustainable. I can't have this crazy dominating mindset every game. If I can even have that just temporarily for like a week, that would get me going. It's like, I've kind of viewed it as like a kickstart. When you like do a roll start with a car, when your car's stalled or whatever. Get your momentum going. And then you just keep it going, And hopefully that gives me enough to like push to the end of the season. That's the goal. Yeah. A lot there, man.
The other thing I'll mention, the last thing is that just talking about the power of the 3-block process. I had Josh Terath, who's a challenger player in OS as well, that is in Soul 2. We had a conversation saying the 3-block process is just magical because he was being sick like the last week or so. And when you're sick, it's hard to play the game.
Everyone's sick at the moment. It's like everyone's sick.
Is people sick?
Everyone's sick.
All right, well, he was
like
sick.
a trillion messages of people saying they're sick.
Well, I'm definitely not sick, so I have no excuse.
Remember, I was sick.
Yeah, you were sick, yeah. So he was like, previously, if he didn't 3-block, these are the points where he loses 400, 500 LP.
Yep.
And then he literally calculated over the last couple of days, because he was sick for like, 4 or 5 days.
He was
like net lost like 40 LP. He's like, the 3 block process is, he literally, we call him the 3 block disciple because he's a religious follower of the 3 block, right? And it's got him so much results because he was a person that went D4 to 300 LP, D4 to 300 LP, years.
Climbing is simultaneously improving at the game and reducing self-sabotage.
That's right.
Charles behind the camera, the king of self-sabotage. It's both.
Yeah.
It's not self-sabotaging and improving.
That's right. You gotta manage both.
Yes.
That's
what 3 blocks amazing are doing. It's minimizing the self-sabotaging.
They're magical. I wouldn't say they're
not magic. It's just
we're saying it's magic. It's magic.
It is what it is, right? Now this is like a bit of a side topic, very small, but I want to call myself out here.
All right.
So, we talk a lot. We're very critical of theorists and people looking for shortcuts in League.
Absolutely.
Right? Like we see it all the time. There's people saying top 5 tips for getting X rank or do this and you'll get to this rank, whatever it is. And I had a revelation and I think I am that person, but in other areas in life.
Okay.
So
this is interesting.
I was on that train of thought, like, why is it that, because I've sometimes I reflect on my coaching. I actually do this now in my MLA. I do coaching reflections at the end of the day. I'll write notes after all my coaching sessions, like, what are the main learnings here? And I had a thought, which was basically, why does it feel like no one thinks long-term? Everyone's looking for the shortcut, the quick gains, the quick LP, what works now. People are very bad, it's very general, but generally quite bad at thinking long-term and foregoing short-term pain for long-term gain. That's like a theme.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed in the MLA.
There's like the famous child study, talking about they say you can have 1 cookie now.
Right.
Or you can wait an hour and have 2 cookies. And
That's
most kids take just the 1 cookie now.
Right. Yeah, exactly like that. And it got me thinking, I'm like, okay, is this something that I doing? Like I just tried to call myself out. Is this something that I do? And I'm like, in League, definitely not. And then I found myself, I remember I went on a big binge of Andrew Huberman, right? And this I would like to get your thoughts on this. So Andrew Huberman, we've mentioned him before. We've actually gone through some of his stuff on the content, his content on the BBC. And he does like a lot of stuff about optimizing your life, right? Optimizing your health. He talks a lot. There's ones he talks about, breathing exercises, some shit that you do with your eyes, cold showers, like all these things, right? And it got me thinking. I remember I was watching these videos like a while ago and I'm thinking, great, this is awesome. I'm going to do cold showers. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And at that time, I'm not even getting 8 hours sleep. Like I'm not even eating that well. And I wasn't training that hard. Like it made me think I am looking, and you might view it as like, okay, you're just trying to better yourself and you're trying to do things that will make you a healthier human being. But it's like, these are below 1%ers. Like these are just like having a goddamn cold shower. Like, people hype up cold showers and all that and meditating and all this and stuff. It's not crap, but it's stuff that is so goddamn insignificant comparatively to getting 8 hours sleep, eating good quality whole foods and like working out. Like this,
maybe performing at your job as well. Just
performing at your job and like not drinking energy drinks and, not being abused to coffee and not abusing whatever it is you abuse. Why is it that like our brains, like we latch on to anything that's sexy, anything that sounds sexy that we think is an advantage or one little tidbit that we can do. Our brains are so, we love it. We just love it.
We do love it.
But how many people do you actually know that tick the fundamentals of life? For myself, it's only probably been in the last 6 to 8 months that I've genuinely probably ticked off most of the fundamentals of life, and I've never felt better in my life. Everything before that, I haven't even ticked the basics.
So if you're looking for these little
tidbits,
1%, like 0.01%, it's just,
I can't believe I even thought about the benefits of a cold shower before doing this stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's like I am one of those guys. I am one of those guys looking for a little tidbit trick that sounds sexy. I'm not even stretching I wasn't stretching. Now I do stretching every day. I work out. I get 8 hours sleep. I, eat well. I do all these, tick the box. I eat breakfast, do all this shit, and stop drinking as much coffee. These are things that make you feel better. I can't believe I was even remotely thinking about doing a cold shower, dude. Like, come on. Like, the difference between a cold shower and a hot shower, like, who gives a shit? So it just got me thinking, I think we need to wake ourselves up sometimes and really expose ourselves, not just in League. And I think League has been a medium for me to really try and be more self-reflective and be more reflective and like, come on, man. Like, what, do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I think, it's human nature, right? In sales, you see, the 6-minute abs, like, everyone sort of knows it, but people still buy it.
People still buy this shit. Yeah.
It's like, what's the ultimate diet for thing or, and the same thing with League. Like, I think most of our community as well. I mean, the interesting thing, obviously a lot of people that follow your YouTube channel maybe not watch the BBC as well, so they don't really know your philosophy.
Right.
But, you mentioned that your top 5, your tier list video, you get so much more views than like, let's say the stop losing video that you did?
Yeah.
Like stop focusing on LP.
Yeah.
Stop losing. That's a really good video. Yeah. Stop focusing on LP video compared to like your tier list.
Tier list
you
sexy.
Can tell people still love the sexy tier list, even though they maybe not, even though maybe followers of Broken by Concept, they saw that video, instantly clicked on it.
Yeah.
Because you can't hold yourself
back. And I
back.
found this same thing manifesting in my own content that I was watching in terms of like learning stuff about the exercises. Like I would be more drawn to the things like these tips for getting better with this exercise rather than watching the long form content that will really explain the details around how to really improve. Like I found this in myself. I'm like, I exposed myself. Like, come on, Curtis. So I think that, this is just like a side topic, it has nothing to do with League, but I found it interesting. I think the reason I want to bring this up, and this is nothing, I'm not saying that Andrew Min and these people have bad content. They're doing amazing work and amazing content, but like, I think he should preface it by saying like, this is for elite individuals. This is for individuals that are already ticked the boxes and like looking for looking for the edges.
The next level.
This is like a challenger player in real life looking for that next little thing, This is not for the golds of real life. I was a bronze of real life, I wasn't even doing the basics. Just a little side note.
I think I can definitely relate to League. Again, with the tier list example, people love the tier list and stuff like that, right? Nick's champion.
I wanted to talk about two things. Daniel is a long-term BBC listener. He's written into the BBC multiple times. I believe he's in the BBC Book Club. He's in the MLA. He's an amazing guy. And I wanted to shout him out because he recently got platinum. And, Daniel is what the definition of what I would call definitely a not talented gamer, right? He doesn't have natural talent. He's an overthinker, what we could definitely he's very analytical in his approach towards the game. And he's been struggling. Like this guy was in a hole. We're talking about clients that, Daniel was a client, and we're gonna be brutally honest here. Like he was plat in the past, but he had this narrative that like, I should be able to get back to plat. He had the toxic expectations narrative. He dropped all the way to gold 4. Like, he overcomes so many mental blocks. It's unbelievable. And he shared with me...
He would have had a harder time than a fresh player, let's say, learning the game and get into platinum for the first time.
100%.
He's in the hard...
He's in that bracket.
Yeah.
And I feel like his story is really inspiring to me because he's the definition, similar to Van, of process-oriented and finding your toolkit. It's not about anyone else. He can't compare himself to anyone else. And that's what he found himself doing before. Daniel is Daniel's Daniel, right? He can't compare himself to anyone else.
He's had his own league experiences, his own background. Right. No one's had his experience getting to platinum and then struggling in gold.
So these were his findings. Number 1, he developed a toolkit that keeps his mental in check and protects his sanity. He limits the time he reviews to 10 minutes because otherwise he would dwell on tough losses for 30 minutes.
Wow.
Hurting his confidence.
Wow.
And I forced myself in my note spreadsheet to also note 3 things I did well. So not just things he did badly, but 3 things he did well, alongside 3 things I can do better next time. This has massively improved my relationship with the game and my ability to walk away from losses in a positive way and shift my focus from LP and rank towards the quality of decision making and improvement. Number 2, I developed a lot of champion mastery on Zed and Victor through playing a lot of games, giving me more consistency and freeing up my mental stack to think about the game holistically. I also increased the amount of games per week based off our recommendation on the BBC from 18 games to 24. And that made a significant difference to him.
6 games different. That's
6
how
game
big.
difference.
It's big.
It's
Those
big.
6 games are big. People think it's it's like, it's a little bit of extra games. Every game counts.
He also, he actually went from 3 blocks to 2 blocks. Which is interesting. He said this was from an episode of the Huberman Lab, just talked about Andrew Huberman before, episode 28 apparently of his podcast. He says that the mind is most efficient learning-wise at working in 90-minute bouts. And I thought I'd try that out with my league schedule, and it actually works for me better generally. Interesting. Again, his toolkit will work for him. He started asking a lot of questions in the VOD's questions channel, given one of the channels we have that where you just post a clip and say, what could I do better?
And it wouldn't just be you respond to other MLA
and seeing other people pointing out things I didn't see. This both humbles me and educates me. He got into as many sessions as possible. He was getting a lot of reviews. He did a lot of 1v1s, further bettering his already pretty solid laning and giving him more consistency. He watched a lot of MLA reviews, both on his champions and other champions, to prove his overall game understanding. He stopped looking at LP, just skipping through the post-game lobby, covering his eyes, not knowing whether it was like a win or loss, whatever, or if the next win or loss would give him promotion or not. And he says, I was being very curious. I was at awe at how complex and deeply layered the game is, and it motivated me to find out as much as I could. For example, when I watched Nathan's Rek'Sai guide, I was so impressed by how beautiful League of Legends is because he developed so carefully thought through strategies. I think watching content from differing roles can actually spur one's curiosity about the game, and maybe you could discuss that in the BBC. He says that's all basically off the top of his head, and thank you. And now his goal is just to not get complacent, essentially. Amazing stuff, right?
I love it when people that have gone through the shit sharing their talk. Like I don't really care about the people that like they're fully successful all the way, to challenge it. It's about I think that's a huge part that we focus on in our reviews and stuff. We get detailed into the process and the challenges that you're going to face. Not, follow this and we're all going to be, all the way linear, all the way to diamond or master tier or something like that. It's getting into the nitty gritty. He developed his toolkit. He evolved like 2 blocks. We don't talk about 2 blocks, we talk about 3 blocks, right? He was obviously very motivated.
He's proactive as well.
Yeah, that's proactive.
He's being proactive about his learning.
He's not sitting there waiting for Curtis in the MLA to tell him this is what you need to do in the review. He's
taking charge of his journey, doing what he needs to do to get the results. And I feel like, this is a guy that if he didn't do any of this, he might have just been that classic addicted guy doing hundreds of games and not getting anywhere, and then probably even going back to silver.
That's right.
Probably.
Yep.
So, thank you, Daniel, so much for sharing that. And I hope that, again, inspires people who are struggling in their own journeys to get their shit together and really be proactive and try shit, be curious.
Do different things. Whatever you're doing is not working. If you're sitting there in gold for years,
it's not working.
Change it. You're not going to say that the thing that you're going to do is going to magically, but you just got to have that mindset to just change something.
Change something. Yeah. What's that? Albert Einstein's definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting
the same results.
Yeah. Like expecting different results.
Sorry, expecting different results, right.
Yeah.
One last thing, Nathan, because I'm taking over the show here. I wanted your advice on this. I've had clients, this was Milk Puddle, he brought a review to me. And this was a game where it was like his top lane, and I think he had a Rumble top, right? He was playing Zed mid, and he had a Rumble top, and I think he was like I can't remember what the jungle was, but anyway, the Rumble was the sole AP in the team. So he had AD jungle, his AD, full AD bot side. Rumble was like the sole AP of the team, and I recognized, I'm like, if Rumble gets behind, this game's like over. Like, you're not going to win this game. Like, you don't have the damage. The enemy team was quite tanky, essentially. I think they had a Gnar. The enemy team had a Gnar as well. And the game was like, I think like Rumble was heavy trading topside or whatever it might be. And Rumble played really poorly and kept ulting waves instead of playing for Rift, and then died like 3 times solo. And it was just an incredibly difficult Zed game. And he comes out of this game, he brings me this review. And I'm like, okay, I love that you're bringing me this review, and I love that we're getting into the details here, and I love that you're trying to take responsibility for this game, but I feel like there's a point where you got to draw a line in the sand and be like, I can't take responsibility for this guy. Like and I feel like
Rumble Lord is such a huge part of that champ. That kid, if he's using it that way, like the game's difficult.
The game's just so difficult.
It's difficult.
And like my point being, we talk a lot about taking responsibility and maximum responsibility, trying to spot any possible way that you can influence the game. And I think that for some people, it can actually be dangerous. Like they take too much responsibility and they're over reviewing games that should just be like, move on. Just move on.
Yeah. I have that problem with a lot of Soul 2 members.
How do you deal with that, Nathan?
I think it comes with experience. I think that's really the boring, simple answer, right? It's like, just really having asking that question that you just said is, is this just a game where I just need to just move on? Like, this is a really impactful, but again, as a player learning the game, how are you going to know that?
That's what I'm saying.
Right? It's dangerous. So,
right? Like I said, dude, you're not going to win this game. No. I said, you play pretty well. Yeah.
It's basically a 4v5.
Yeah. Yeah, and then was like 4-0, and then the enemy got riffed, and like you had to get rift this game. You had to use Rumble to teamfight topside and get this rift and like get the ball rolling topside. And then I think the jungle like traded off top, and then like went by, and then the enemy got rift, and then they rifted top, and then just started roaming around the map and killing everyone. It's like, you're not going to deal with this guy. They're all stacking armor. What are you going to do? And like he started like, how can I win? But can I do that? And I'm like, let's just move on. And it feels bad sometimes as a coach. This is a 30% loss.
That's right.
And it's like I can spot this easily, but how does this guy spot it? Because you can tell that he's trying to take maximum responsibility.
It's good. Yeah, I think you just need to be very critical. I'm trying to find a conversation in my Discord because I have another example exactly of someone who was over. And I actually have a lot of Soul 2 members they're pretty good at identifying it. And that's because they've been around for a long time.
Right. It just takes time.
That's why my first intuition response there is just experience over time. You just got to identify the games where it's like.
I always feel very hesitant to say it's a 30% loss because I don't want the client to latch onto that topic. Right. It's a we talk a lot about dangerous topics. That's another dangerous topic. In a way, by the way, if I were to go back in time, even though that video gave me a lot of views and probably gave me to the public, I probably wouldn't have made the coin flip video. Straight up.
Yeah, because there's so many.
I think it's done more harm than good.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Because people start thinking about the percentages and they think.
People go ahead. Like when you helped me, I distinctly remember we were living together at the time and I had an idea of this video. And then I said to you the percentages. I went to your room and I said, Nathan, what do you think about this? What percentage do you think the game is? And I think we sat over dinner and we like cracked the code. But like it is 30, 30, 40. Like we thought it for like hours. We're like, this is it, right? And like this is going to be the greatest video. And it was like an amazing video. Everyone loved it. And it makes sense. And the model is good. But one thing I didn't push enough in that video was that this is it's kind of like a philosophy. It's like, it's not something that you can really use practically unless you're extremely experienced with the game. It's an overarching philosophy. Like you can't determine what is a 30% win or 30% loss or 40%.
It's just knowing. You're not going to know.
This is running in the background.
In big picture, 70% of your games are in your control.
That's the message.
That's the message.
That's the message.
It's not, the game's not against you.
But people would love to try and get into like the details. And is this a 30%? I had this amount of 30% losses. Like, whenever I hear that,
I've had to break the rule as well. It's like someone, like some scientist comes up with some like theory or something like that, and like someone's just trying to like using all their energy and effort to disprove it in like these type of situations.
That's right. That's right. So in a way, if I were to go back in time, I either would have completely changed the way I made that video, or actually just not even do it because I think it's done more harm than good.
Yeah. I wonder what the comment section is like that these days. Does that still get views, that video?
I have no idea. I haven't checked.
Yeah.
I really don't like looking at my YouTube comments.
Yep. It's an interesting place to be.
BBC comments are okay. Not as good at the moment. Yep. You guys in the BBC comments.
There's lots of requests and demands for the new format.
Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about today?
I just wanted to touch on a little bit of what Daniel said about other roles.
Okay.
We don't have to go really deep in it, but what are some things from other roles that you've learned that have helped your gameplay significantly?
Well, I learned a lot from your Rek'Sai guide. I learned quite a bit from Cupcake's support guides. I think Cupcake has some excellent content.
So learning some support stuff.
Yeah, because I play support with my secondary role, and I learned a lot from his support videos.
Is there anything you can think about recently that you're thinking? Like, there's a couple of things. Because I mean, I think for a jungler it's different because I mean, for a mid lane you're sort of like playing your own game most of the time. But I need to really like part of my job, my duty when I'm going in, I'm learning about other roles and waves and all that sort of stuff.
You need to learn a lot about the game holistically. Yeah. The advice I always give is I like watching games from other champs perspectives. So like I watch. If I say I don't play Aurelia right now,
Is this Aurelia mid or is it top? We're talking other roles.
Mid. I'm talking mid.
Okay.
If I play versus Aurelia, say I play Victor versus Aurelia, I will watch Victor versus Aurelia VODs, and then I'll watch Aurelia versus Victor VODs. I'll watch both, and that's what I try to do as much as I can. If I struggle with not understanding something, if I don't know how to skirmish versus a champ, I try to watch either highlights or videos or clips of that champion. Even if I don't play it myself, just to educate myself essentially. And actually reminds me, I became a better player through coaching in the MLA because I was forced to learn about all these champs that I'd never played before. Like Katarina. I didn't know how to coach Katarina at the start. I actually had this conversation, funnily enough. Someone asked me, I think it was Steve because he's a new coach in the MLA, and he said, Curtis, what were your experiences like when you first coached Katarina at the start? And I said, dude, I think I made people worse. Like, I didn't know what I was talking about, but that led me down a path to really study it. Like I spoke to One Tricks, I watched streamers, I watched shit ton of VODs, went into practice tour with the champ. Like I really tried to understand it. And it wasn't until I put in all that effort that I was able to like coach it. And then also it made me very good at versing Katarina.
Because you know exactly what she wants.
I know what she wants. I know what her mindset is. I know what she's looking for. I know why she's thinking like that. But that only came from studying it. So you're forced in a way, if you're a role coach, to really learn the mindset of all these different champions. And it makes you a better player. Makes you a better player.